Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back, everybody.
Hope everybody is having an awesome morning.
Indeed, we do.
I was just saying to Cindy, I love this time of year. Well, I guess it depends on where you're at. So, for us over here and basically in the Texarkana area, man, it's nice when the days are like 78, 80 degrees and the humidity is a thing of the past for the most part. And when we get to see the sun, what's better?
It is so nice being able to sit outside when it's not super hot, but you can feel the depth of the sun sinking in on your skin. That's great.
On this channel, we like to share with you guys. We don't just give the news. I mean, that's not our purpose to give the news. It's not our purpose to make money. Our purpose is to share with you insights and maybe things that have been hidden from most people. And this world is one in which the system is all about hiding the true reality and all about hiding the natural.
I think we're the ones we kind of poke holes in the veil so other people can see through.
And we recognize we're never going to get to 1 million subscribers in a system in which it's all about lies and falsehoods and distortion and altering reality for basically the betterment of the few. After all, when you get down to it, this is most definitely a very dark system we find ourselves in.
I know, and it's so naughty because last night they were caught, YT was caught red-handed just blocking our videos. I have one of our dear family members sends me a picture of video not available, and it really gets frustrating, but you just kind of got to get over that and move forward because people want to know, they want to understand.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And so they tried to stop us at every turn, but the knowledge is spreading, and it keeps spreading. Just like their nasty viruses do spread, so does the truth, and we're grateful for that. So please might as well be subscribed to both channels, and we are on Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble as well, although it's interesting too because every place you go has a certain level of censorship that is hit, and I don't think there's anything that the people that founded these channels could really do about it besides resist.
I mean, and it does take some fortitude to resist these things because when you're going against the stream, it can make you exhausted. And then there are certain people that will come out of the corners just to harm you, just to make you stop. So, but when it's your passion and it's what you're here to do, then that's what you do.
And do check out Evolutionaryenergyarts.com if you're curious about looking more into what we do when we're not doing videos. And thank you for your support over on Patreon. I want to thank Allison, was our newest Patreon over there. And also thank you for your support on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time donation or a monthly support just like Patreon to support the channel. We were talking about this yesterday. This is China's fusion reactor, at least that's how they put it. Again, I think that the masses of the planet do not understand the technology that's been here before Homo sapiens was here. So again, if you think there's no such things as extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings, you're really burying your head in the sand. You got that ostrich syndrome going. Absolutely, the evidence is overwhelming. And then again, with Cindy and I, it's not a case of this is what we believe. It's a case of we're sharing what we know. We know this. We don't have any doubts about this. We know. We've had direct interactions many times. And this is something that many of you that have studied the UFO phenomena would recognize, that there's certain bloodlines, there's certain families that are watched very, very intently. So it's not just me and Cindy, it's our ancestors, and it's down to our kids too. And so this is something that you have to understand. 3D and 4D are again I used the analogy, they're two sides of the same coin. So the controllers, the real controllers of this planet in a Kali Yuga and in the early part of, let's say, the Bronze Age, they reside in 4D, but they are able to affect 3D through some of their minions, for lack of a better word, and some of the humans that have actually betrayed humanity as well, allowing them to operate through them. And also, at certain times, we are on the same density as them. So then it's just, they would appear to us as physical as anybody, as your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter.
Right.
This is another big clue as to what is going on. And it's all about the sun, guys. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. It makes me think of that Woodstock song, right? We got to get back to the garden, right? Back to the garden. Well, the Garden of Eden is really, it's kind of giving us a 5D reality in a sense, where from the aspect of everything is in harmony, everything is in peace, and the world just kind of supports life. And that's really the way it could be right now if we got rid of the system, got rid of the controllers. We just have to be aware of how they manipulate us. Absolutely. It's all manipulation. Now, we've talked about BG, and you've probably heard about this. He wants to spray dust into the atmosphere to block the sun. Why? Well, they say it's global warming. Again, climate change, global warming, all these things are just tools. There's natural cycles that everything goes through. We're not sitting still. We're going through a different part of the galaxy all the time. You know, we go around a central sun, so to speak. And so our sun revolves around the central sun. Everything revolves around something else. This is also part of the as above, so below. And so we hit these certain zones at certain times, and there's different energies that we're exposed to. So we get natural variations in temperature and weather condition naturally. Now, the weather modification, geoengineering that's happening on the planet really kind of, for our lifetimes, has been dwarfing most of what we see.
Right, and look at the natural cycle of things. When we see life should be supported by other life. But what we have right now is life forms unevenly feeding on other life forms, and we should look at all of our relationships too, because if there's entities in your life that are kind of draining you and it's not an even exchange of energy, then that's a life form that is pulling you down. And that's something that we got to start recognizing and moving away from, and understanding that life should support life, not feed off of life.
So why does Bill really want to block the sun? Well, as we shared, it's all about the sun. The sun is what's changing us. For the most part, there's cosmic rays coming in too. And that's, again, light from other suns, out there, that are sending us new information. They're restoring what has been cut off, broken down, disrupted by the controllers. Our DNA is literally healing as we speak.
Right, and understand that the information that's coming to us is information coming from the outside of us. So we're picking up signals from the outside of us. And this morning was really interesting. In meditation, I got that the sun is definitely in that place where it's starting to heal us. It's starting to mold us. It's starting to help us be more part of that system where system supports system. We are the sun is us. There's no difference. It's plasma. The sun is plasma, we are plasma. So if we have that sun with us, we can start to regenerate. And when I was in meditation this morning, it was really strange, because what came to me was, since July 30th 2020, there have been experiments going on to try to actually mimic the sun for regeneration. And I have seen all over the place, all of these lights. You know, light healing is a thing. It's very, very real. Unfortunately, we're not in that space where our bodies are able to sustain like they would if we were in a golden age. So as we continue to move closer to the golden age, we naturally continue to regenerate because we are closer to the sun. The scientists, they're trying to get kind of a head start on it. And I don't think it's a benevolent move at all. No, I think it's a move that is probably only going to be created for those who can afford it. But in a golden age, we will all be able to have it. And those that are feeding off of life, their time is definitely limited. So I'm happy to speak those words. And when I get this information, I'm not getting it out of any kind of anything that I'm judging. I just get it in and I tell you guys what I see and what comes. And it's just a very kind of dry form of understanding. It's like, oh, okay, well, this is what I see and this is what I'm going to tell you. So it's nothing that's judged or really even understood. It's just information. And we feel it is helpful to you guys.
Absolutely. So the song I was thinking in my head is actually called Woodstock, and it's by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, which honestly I wasn't a huge fan of. And everything in me has been changing lately. Everything evolves in all of us. And as I've shared with you guys in the past, when we lose a loved one, the loved one doesn't just disappear from our life. In many ways, some of the loved one is able to act through us. So, you know, I lost my mom a couple of years back now, and she was big into jazz music especially, but she liked a lot of things too. She liked Herb Alpert and the Tijuana jazz and a lot of this type of thing too, because my brother, who passed at 16, loved this type of music too. And when you think about it, there's so much wisdom. There was the beginning of a consciousness revolution that did get waylaid. Again, the controllers waylay everything. When we talk about the Sanatana Dharma, for instance, in Hinduism, it's been infiltrated just as Christianity, just as every single religion has been infiltrated. They will take hold of every religion, every philosophy, Darwinism, right? Evolution. Many people think that evolution and Darwinian evolution are the same thing, but they're not. Darwinian evolution is based on survival of the fittest and competition. And even Darwin said that, you know, his theory wasn't perfect and was open to revision. He was a 33rd degree Mason, by the way, as so many are, that give us all of our textbooks, that give us all our rules and laws. And again, it's just, they're part of the power structure. And the power structure is against the natural order of things. But, you know, these are great lyrics. These are great lyrics. You know, we are stardust, we are golden, we are billion-year-old carbon, and we got to get ourselves back to the garden. You know, I mean, isn't that great? It's true. Now, our path back is lit by the sun. This is what's going on. Why does Bill want to block the sun? He wants to stop the ascension process. And now they know they can't stop it. The only way they could stop it is individuals that choose to go along with their program. So if you follow all their advice, you might end up stopping your own ascension process. And you might find yourself next incarnation in another world ruled by the same beings. That's not something I want to encounter. You know, of course, at the same time here, Cindy and I are voluntarily doing this. We do this because we are systems busters. This is what we do. We can't stand to see this. So this is why we have done this 5 other times going into Kali Yugas to try to break down the system. WEF reveals plan to block out the sun with space bubbles. Yes, seriously. So here we have BG, WEF. Sky to be sprayed with aluminum to block the sun rays. The United States government and MIT. That tells you all you need to know. So the U.S. government and MIT which is, I think, I just saw a listing, the rankings of the best, quote unquote, top rank colleges in the country, and MIT was, I think, second. And again, it lets you know where these entities, alliances lie. It's not with humanity. No, they're serving their masters. Carnegie Institute calls for spraying aerosols to block the sun. Harvard scientists begin to experiment to block out the sun. So now you know that anything you get from any of these sources, who do they serve? They serve very dark forces. No, they don't serve Batman. But have you noticed Gotham is always dark? Dark, murky. It just has this cold, nasty vibe to it. When we look at Dark City, you guys, if you haven't watched it, go check out Dark City. It's been called The Matrix before The Matrix. Well, the city's always dark. Why is it always dark? Because the beings that control Dark City are not humans. They operate the bodies of deceased humans, so they appear to be humans, but they're controllers. And they don't like the light. They can't tolerate the light. The light it's like a vampire with sunlight. They don't like the light. They cannot handle the light. And they're doing nonstop experiments on humans to try to discover what makes the human soul unique, because they can't understand it. Because again, these are all references to the real controllers. When we see Dark World, for instance, I think there's been 5 or 6 Dark World movies. And you see the little werewolf in the background, and she's a vampire, and she's the heroine, so to speak, even though the heroine is a vampire. Again, everything is kind of twisted, topsy-turvy, upside down. What do vampires do? They feast on humans. How do they feast on humans? Well, they directly drink the life force, right, traditionally. We know there's also energetic vampires that can suck the life force without drinking the blood, per se. And again, it's always dark. Why? Because vampires can't stand the light. The light burns them. They can't tolerate it. We also see Victor here, and it's that aristocracy. Kings and queens given down from on high. It's really kings and queens given to us from the pits of hell is the reality. And the aristocracy, blue bloods, different elites, certain lineages. It all points to Nibiru. Now, the Nibiruans themselves, in some ways, are just another conquered race. They're another tribe to be pitied, even though they view themselves as our superiors. They very much view ourselves. When you look at Victor and the elite in the Underworld series, there you go. That's their attitude in a nutshell. Humans are just meals, cattle, food, just to be used. And when we look at Nibiru, it's kind of the prototype for what happened to Mars. And then those that were in control on Mars came to Earth. And when we look at Nibiru, it's dark, it's nasty, it's sad, because the original planet was, an example of the divine feminine. It had that goddess energy in it. And it's been basically just like what happened to Mars and what's happening to Earth. It's suffered under robbery, rape, and pillage of its entire ecosystem, so that now, just like Darth Vader, it's more a machine than a planet. And in fact, it does have its own atmosphere. It can move and does move independently of any sun. So again, it's more like akin to a Death Star, per se. They actually use a black hole as their propulsion system. So the thoughts where there's a nemesis system with a black hole that Nibiru revolves around, the reality is the black hole is the propulsion system for Nibiru.
Mm-hmm. And, I really need to kind of make this point again about the difference between life feeding on life and then life supporting life. If there's entities or things in your life that are simply pulling you down and not adding to your happiness, then that's something that we need to take a look at, because this is how we evolve. We start recognizing what's pulling down our frequency and what is adding to our frequency, and then we just continue on that upward path. And there are many times things that we do have to process, and they don't feel very good. But once we're through it, and once we're done processing it, once we understand it, then we can put that to bed and hopefully at some point help another person who needs help processing something so they can move upward too.
So you guys might have been following The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Tolkien, great storyteller. You know, gosh, I think I was 10 or so when I first started reading The Hobbit, maybe 9. And went through The Lord of the Rings. I gobbled it up. I joined a sci-fi book club. I was getting stuff from Alan Dean Foster and so many other, great sci-fi novelists when I was a little kid, and just devouring this stuff because it triggered memories. Now, somebody made the comment, and I'm sorry I forget who made the comment, but they were making a good point that the orcs in this, again, this is all legendary, but again, it's something I think a lot of us, like Tolkien, was perhaps a lot more aware, at least his higher self was, or there was something in his subconscious that was whispering to him of the reality of our past, and how these myths and legends are grounded and based in fact. And so when we see the orcs, who become the army for the Dark Lord, what the reality is they're actually elves that have been tormented and twisted into darkness, and this is something that can happen with any soul. And again, it's about resisting. Now, when we look to Nibiru, what happened was they gave in, they acquiesced, they became part of the draconian AI empire, so to speak. And these battles are what destroyed planets. And this is why the Lyrans, the original humans, or at least from what we've been able to decipher, some of the original home places for human lie in the Lyran star system. This is why the Pleiades started to receive the input of so many immigrants, was because of these battles and these wars. And so when we look at the Anunnaki, who are they? Well, again, they're kind of like the orcs. They become twisted. They weren't originally that, but they've accepted the AI implants. And in fact, you were looking at their atmosphere and you were saying there's okay guys, Graphene oxide all over the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's what it felt like, and that's what it looked like, making it kind of like a magnetic type of energy that they just sort of exist in and swim in and they stay in, and it's dark and murky, and this energy is what really controls their emotions for the most part.
Yeah, they've been assimilated. They have been assimilated, and so it's a sad thing. And of course, there are those that are there that maybe regret, and absolutely, there could even be resistance in there as well. At some point in time, everything that goes outwards comes back in. And, yes, Big Bang, yes, Big Crunch at some point in time. When we saw Oumuamua, we were watching a ship that was inhabited by very, very cold, draconian energies. Again, think in terms of, emotionless, cold, sterile. We could look to Spock in some ways, but Spock was half human, right? So he had a little bit of that emotion in him, even though the logic ruled. Well, these guys, it's kind of much worse, really. It all, again, boils down to where are we in the Great Year when we look through the cycle of the ages. The Iron Age, the Kali Yuga, going into the Bronze, the Dwapara, going into the Treta, the Silver, and then the Satya Yuga, ascending cycle. That's what we're on now, the ascending, and then there's a descending cycle. And so when we look again at these ages, people have different ideas on the timelines of how long they are. In traditional Hinduism, they're extremely long, but then there's cycles within cycles as well. And you could even look at it as a sine wave. You could even kind of see it as a DNA spiral. Again, so, technically we, according to Sri Yugatswar, who was again the teacher of Yogananda, we're out of the Kali Yuga now. But again, when we dip out of the Kali Yuga and we start into that Bronze Age, the first area we go is where these guys, call their home territory. So again, it's a journey back to the Golden Age. And gold. Remember when the sun was gold? Well, everything that's going on right now is a distortion of the natural way of things. They don't want you being exposed to the sun. They want you to become a vampire like them.
No, and that's why they're currently doing these experiments, because there's something very significant about that date that has passed, July 30th, 2020. And it's almost like, I don't know, is that the day we've stepped out and things are supposed to change? So science wants to try to get, they want to try to get ahead on the game and see if they can't make themselves live longer right now. There's something significant about that date and understanding the sun and light therapy and how it works. But the sun and the light, it definitely heals our body. When you're out there in the sun, if you look at your arm very closely, you can see these little sparkles. We were just talking to someone about that yesterday. She was looking at her hand. She could see the little sparkles. And that's rebuilding. It's doing something. That's that plasma energy integrating with you once again and helping you heal. So it is a very, very exciting time. And it helps to understand it. It helps to understand the duality of it, understanding the controllers, and it helps us see absolutely through that veil of what they're trying to do and how important it is that they control us, because with this information that we have coming into our bodies, we become more free, sovereign beings. And who's going to be left to run all of their companies? We're not going to do it, because we know we're creative, sovereign beings, and we're going to do what we want, not what they want.
So Yuga in Hindu philosophy is a name for an epoch or an era or an age, again, within a 4-age cycle. According to Hindu cosmology, life in the universe is created and destroyed once every 4.1 to 8.2 billion years, which is one full day and night for Brahma. Again, we recognize that there's cells in our body that, maybe don't even have a full 24-hour cycle as their lifespan. Some cells are replaced very, very frequently, such as the lining of the stomach, where, bones will be around much longer, certain organs much longer. It's all relative. And just with human beings, as we go through these cycles, our lifespan is the shortest in the Kali Yuga. Then it starts to get longer as we go into the bronze, and then in the silver it's longer yet, and then the golden it's the longest. When we look to the Hindu cosmology, they recognize that physically we're living in something much, much bigger. And so if we want to view it as the great big bang, and then there's a contraction later on, again, it could relate to a single cell in the body of that something bigger, as our entire universe is just a single cell. And yet consciousness itself is not destroyed. It just expands. It multiplies. It's like cellular mitosis and division. So it's kind of replicating itself in unique ways all the time. And then at some point in time, it becomes back into itself and becomes the one yet again. And this is part of that great mystery. And this, again, could take a long time. The lifetime of Brahma himself, may be between 40 billion and 311 trillion years. Again, nobody has an exact number on all this. I think even talking to the guides, I know there's no way we could get a number on it, because to them, there is no time.
No, time is a man-made construct, and that's what we do. We do on this playing field is we use that time to have experiences. So when we are dealing with guides and benevolent beings, they're not going to throw out dates for you to say, well, this is going to happen this date, that's going to happen on that date. If you do get dates, I have to feel that there is definitely some man-made construct involved, and you're picking that up from that area. But with my experience, when it has to do with benevolent beings, it's always been something, they understand that everything is happening right now. You know, everything has already happened right now, all at once. It is quite confusing, really, when you start to sink into it. But I see things as a big cosmic heartbeat, you know, that expansion and contraction, expansion and contraction. And as we contract, sometimes that's going to hurt. But as we expand, that's really going to be fascinating and wonderful. And we have to have the duality of that to have these experiences that we have.
Absolutely. And then when we see depictions like this of flying vehicles, you know, the Vedas, again, there's not agreement on when they were written. But if we use some astrological locations of stars and time periods and clues that are given to us, they must be at least 4,000 to 6,000 years old at minimum, and probably much older than that. And in these other ages, basically we have 3 ages where it's completely out in the open with beings coming and going from the planet. It's just the way it is. And in the Golden Age, it's all really very, very benevolent and peaceful. These other beings with the higher technology, they just speak openly to us. They are gurus. What's guru? Teacher. And when you say Wahe Guru, for instance, that phrase is talking about, you know, the great teacher, your prime teacher, the universal teacher. We could be talking in many instances about beings like Vishnu or even Source itself. Again, they take the role of gurus, teachers. They don't demand worship. People, because of the things they go through in the lower ages, have this programming automatically of worship, but yet, you know, it's natural to treat beings that are benevolent and good to you with a certain degree of respect and proper courtesy. That's just, you know, that's just kind of a given. But at the same time, they don't demand worship. Now, what you get is these beings like the Anunnaki that are all about ego and service to themselves. Now, they do demand worship, and they do demand sacrifice, as we know from their books. If you want to connect to the energy of the sun and also of the creator and source, you can do the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri is one that's said to actually wipe away negative karma, and it's one of the most beautiful ones. Deva Premal does a version that's just staggeringly beautiful. We do have this over here on our mantra playlist, the Gayatri, which you could check out as well. Again, Sanskrit is constructed so the sounds of the Sanskrit mantras literally open up our chakras. They open up the gateways to the higher densities. So they open up a path to accessing knowledge, vibrations, and frequencies that are well beyond the controller.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's something that if we get into, this is my favorite mantra that I love to do, and this is the one I was doing when I got the information in about the sun. And if you are out there in the sun, and what I've realized is when you're out there and you're getting this healing activity, if you are really feeling tired, that is your body trying to heal. And there's a couple different types of tired that people might go through. It's that the exhaustion of the soul, and then there's that physical tired. And when you have exhaustion of the soul, these mantras and these meditations, that's the rest that your body and your being really, really needs. Now, when we exercise, that might be where there's an exhaustion of the body, which is a very, very healthy thing. So, but either way you look at it, it's the rest is the kind of rest that you need and you get is different, but it's the same, just on different levels.
So, the words, again, you'll find some just slight variations. Om, Bor, Buva, Sva, Tat, Savitur, Varenium, Bargo, Devyasa, Dimai, Diyo, Yona, Prachodayat. And what it literally means, and you'll find some slightly different translations, is basically, O thou existence, absolute creator of the three dimensions, we contemplate upon thy divine light. May he stimulate our intellect and bestow upon us true knowledge. Or, O divine mother, our hearts are filled with darkness, please make this darkness distant from us and promote illumination within us. And you could look at it by looking at each one of the words themselves. It's a very, very uplifting mantra. It is especially, I feel especially effective out in the sun. I mean, that's when I do it, is in the mornings out in the sun when the sun comes up. We typically wake up now, thank you Rama and Sita, 45 minutes or so before the sun comes up. And my lovely lady gets the coffee going. And, one of the first things we'll do is we get out there when the sun's lights are coming and illuminating our day. And we do mantras. We usually start with Ganesh's. And then from there, Lakshmi, or going into this one. But this one, I always just felt this is, to me, morning and early sunlight, and just giving thanks for the sun and the illumination. And in these times, the restructuring of our DNA and restoring us to what we really are, because we have been tampered with.
And, make sure you do these mantras and feel them for yourself. Make sure that they are doing something for you. Because I'm just such a strong believer in feeling things out and understanding them. It is nice we can get vocabulary words to get kind of a meaning, but really what matters is what's in our heart and what we truly, truly feel. And what matters to us, not other people, not other entities, but what matters to us in our heart and our soul is what's important.
Yeah, and when I talked about that, we have a second chromosome that's fused. And what do you see now? You see, obviously, the fact checkers coming out and saying new research debunks human chromosome fusion. And who did that? Well, it's somebody associated with Clemson, and probably also people from Harvard, and probably also people from Yale, probably Skull and Bones men. You get the picture. They're all about distortion. These liars, these deceivers, they love the darkness. They serve the darkness. They don't love the natural order of things. They don't love the creator, and they certainly don't love the mother. That they absolutely hate the divine feminine. And, that's a sad thing, but that's why they've disconnected us from it. Again, our Father who art in heaven, no mention of the mother. Again, it's again a patriarchal society that is one without balance and harmony, and that's also part of how they control us. Separation.
Right. Dividing us in boxes and getting us tattling on one another is how they keep us separated. So finding out who you are and what matters to you, and making sure that those around you are adding to your happiness and not taking it away, that's how we're going to get somewhere, when we start to work with each other and climb that ladder and allow this system to fall away like it needs to.
Absolutely. Because we are heading on the path back to the true garden, so to speak.
Yes.
As always, guys, much love. May you be blessed by the true creator of this universe. Namaste.
Namaste.